Let me tell you a story about a friend of mine. He was experiencing fatigue, like always tired, got his hormones tested, extremely low testosterone, but then got his microplastics tested, and they were off the charts. Did a series of interventions to try to clean his body out from that, stopped drinking anything out of plastic, stopped using plastic. His testosterone went up to 1,200. With no testosterone replacement, no nothing. Just eliminating microplastics from his life over a period of time raises testosterone.
So that's fantastic, and it's what we are seeing in the film and so on.
So they're playing a part in affecting our hormonal production? Is that what's going on?
They interfere with our hormonal systems in various ways. So they could increase production of a hormone, like a proestrogen. They could decrease, say, an anti-androgen, decrease testosterone. They could mess with our thyroid hormone, and so on and so forth. So they change levels, but they also change how they're transported, and they interfere with making them available to other parts of the body, basically.
It clearly is terrible for people when it gets into your body. It's not a benign thing whatsoever.
Right.
And that's just one.
Right.
What other things are affecting the developmental cycle?
So there's the chemicals that are in coatings of Teflon frying pans, coatings of your jacket that you wear in the rain, repellent. Those coatings, and they're also on paper, it keeps the grease from going through to the box when you buy a pizza. Those coatings are also hormonally active and very, very prevalent. They're called the PFAS. Sometimes they're called PFAS and PFOAs. They're different classes of chemicals, but perfluorinated compounds.
This video is part 3 of a series of full guides on how to avoid hormone disruptors in pursuit of raising your testosterone naturally. The last 2 videos focused on phthalates and bisphenols. This video is focusing on PFAS, forever chemicals. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to limit your exposure to them, going beyond the usual basic advice like avoiding nonstick pans, which are actually only a small part of the problem. On screen, you can see some info about what forever chemicals are, why they're bad for you, and why you should avoid them if you want to maximize your testosterone naturally. Pause to read if you're interested, but now I'll just get straight into the methods to avoid them. Most people think of nonstick pans when it comes to PFAS, but for most of us, the biggest exposure actually comes from food, with fish being the highest source by far. PFAS can get into the food supply through contaminated soil and water, and from there into fish over time. In one study, around 69% of ocean fish were contaminated, and in another study, almost all freshwater fish were contaminated, and at much higher levels. So, to help you figure out which fish to avoid, you can see on screen some data of various fish and how much PFAS was detected in each.
As you can see, farmed fish can be significantly lower in PFAS than wild fish, but it varies a lot, and there's overlap. So in summary, you could avoid freshwater fish completely, and if you still want omega-3s from fish like mackerel, consider eating only farmed instead of wild. And if you reduce or remove fish entirely, you'll want to replace key nutrients like omega-3s, vitamin D3, and selenium from other foods or supplements. You can use a free app like Chronometer to help you track your nutrition.
What are some other things that you do and avoid in light of what you know?
So our water, I worry about the water. I studied water for a long time in my past life. So we actually distill our water. So we have a tabletop distiller.
The second major source of PFAS exposure is from our drinking water. Conventional drinking water treatment removes very little PFAS. In large-scale testing across 25 U.S. treatment plants, PFAS were found in every single source and treated water sample, and the overall levels were almost the same before and after treatment. Reverse osmosis and distillation can remove most PFAS from water, often around 90 to 99% or more, because they physically separate the chemicals from the water rather than breaking them down. I've linked the best tabletop distillers and reverse osmosis systems in the description. They're ideal because they require no plumbing and are more affordable than under-the-sink systems. PFAS have been found in nearly all homes tested. PFAS are used to make materials water-resistant, stain-resistant, or non-stick, and over time, coatings made with PFAS can break down and end up in indoor dust, and you can then inhale or ingest them. They're commonly found in things like waterproof or stain-resistant clothing, uniforms, as well as carpets, sofas, mattresses, and upholstered furniture that have been treated to resist spills. They've also been used in curtains, rugs, and more. I've linked an air purifier in the description that performed the best in independent tests, as well as a HEPA vacuum. These two things can help to reduce contaminated dust in your home, the vacuum being the most important part. For outdoor wear, there are some brands like Patagonia that make PFAS-free outdoor wear. For furniture and things like curtains, look for an OEKO TEX or GOTS certification, or look at the options I've found in the description. I've also linked mattresses and bedding that are made from PFAS-free materials. When it comes to carpets, they're being phased out by some brands. Look for any that state they're PFAS-free, but the best-case scenario would be to not have any carpets in your home if you can, because they can also harbor contaminated dust and are generally less hygienic than floors. In food packaging, PFAS were historically used in grease-resistant paper and cardboard, especially in fast food packaging, because they stop oil and grease from soaking through. In recent years, this changed. In the US, PFAS used in grease-proof food packaging were phased out across major supply chains around 2024 to 2025. In the EU, PFAS in food packaging are still in a transition period, but are set to be phased out almost entirely by August 2026. Outside the US and EU, regulation varies by country, so to be safe, check whether your country has phased them out or not. Now the most well-known source, non-stick cookware. Older non-stick pans used PTFE coatings that were manufactured using PFOA, a PFAS chemical that was phased out by major producers by around 2015 due to health concerns. Modern non-stick pans still use PTFE coatings, but without PFOA in the manufacturing process. PTFE is still a PFAS, but it's a very large, stable material, and that's the key difference. Unlike smaller PFAS like PFOA, which can dissolve in water, circulate in the bloodstream, and build up in the body over time, PTFE remains a solid, stable material that doesn't dissolve or behave the same way in the body. It's thought to mostly pass through the body without being absorbed. So if a pan is scratched, what can come off are tiny solid particles of the PTFE coating itself, not small mobile PFAS chemicals like those found in contaminated water or fish. When a PTFE pan is heated to extremely high temperatures above about 260 degrees Celsius, like if you left it empty on high heat, the coating can start to break down, producing fumes and very fine particles. Once again, these breakdown products don't behave the same as PFAS found in the environment, but they can cause short-term irritation if inhaled at high levels. Overall, research shows that non-stick cookware is a very minor source of PFAS exposure compared to drinking water and food. But if you're still concerned about it, I've linked some cookware in the description that doesn't use PTFE. Some other potential sources include dental floss, so water flossers are an alternative, waterproofing sprays, a small minority of makeup and cosmetics. I've made a full list of non-toxic makeup and cosmetics for anyone interested. Some cleaning products, like floor waxes and polishes, and there are many other potential sources, since PFAS chemicals have hundreds of uses. Most people won't be directly exposed to these sources at home, but they can contribute to worldwide pollution that we're all exposed to over time. One final notable source of PFAS pollution is in firefighting foam, where people who use it regularly could be exposed to high levels, as well as those living nearby to where it's used, as it can pollute the water in the surrounding area. Subscribe for more full guides on avoiding hormone disruptors and increasing your testosterone naturally.